With practice exercise 16.20 shift, we're going to write a method called shift, and it's going to rearrange all elements of a list of integers by moving to the end all of the list values that are in odd number positions. So if you look at this one and you look at this one, you can see all the odd number positions are now in the back. It doesn't matter what the actual value is, again, it is just the position. So we can assume that this class exists and we're actually adding our method into this class. So let's work with it here. It's going to be a public void because we're not returning anything, we're just modifying shift, and we're not taking anything as a parameter, we're just going to code inside of here. Here's my thought process. We can go through our entire list, get to the back, and then once we're at the back, we can go through this list again, but removing the odd numbers and putting them at the back. So we'll need two list nodes eventually to do this, and we're going to want to run this as long as our current value, so this dot front does not equal to null, because otherwise there's nothing to shift, and this dot front dot next does not equal to null, because if there's only, let's say there is two values right here, well, this is going to be at the odd number index, the one index. It's already going to be at the back, so we don't really have to do anything. So we can assume that we have at least more than two values here. Now let's make our first list node current that's going to get the front and run through it. It's going to be equal to this dot front, and then from here we also need a counter variable, int counter. And I'm going to set this equal to 0 because we're eventually going to want to run a while loop for how many odds we have left in here. It's pretty much all we're going to do. Now for our first while loop, and this while loop is just to run through our list. So while current does not equal to, current.next does not equal to null, because we want to be right here and end right here. We want to not have a null value in our list. If we have a null value, we're just gonna start appending values after that null value, and that's no good. So while current.next does not equal to null, again, because we want to stop right here. Once we stop here, we can see that the next value is null, and then we can start adding values in. So we're just going to set current equal to current.next. This is basically moving our pointer all the way down our list. And then we're also going to have counter plus plus. So we increment our counter every single time that we're going to do this. Now is where we can start appending our even numbers to our list. I want to keep using current as the current thing that we're iterating through. We're going to set the current values that we've already gone through to end. So list node, say end is equal to current. And basically that's going to store our entire list and the place we are at, which is at the very end, inside of end. And then we can reassign current. Current is equal to this dot front to the front of our list, so that when we go through this while loop again, we can run it as long as we have some current values. Now we only want to run it for the odd ones, and so this counter value, we're going to have to divide it by 2 because there's half as many odd numbers in here. This while loop is going to run against our counter, and it's going to run as long as our counter has to be greater than 0. So when we go through this, we increment our counter, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We actually don't look at this last one because remember, we're saying as long as our current.next is not equal to null. And then inside of here, when we set current equal to current.next, it's not going to run through this again. So we only have these three, and these 2. So that's going to give us a total of 8. If we want 9, because it's going to round it too low, we should either add 1 to our counter or initially set it equal to 1. We're going to want to run this while our counter minus minus is greater than 0. And then inside of here, we are going to want to update this end. So we're going to set end.next, so that's the value after our current next. We want to set it equal to the next odd value. So if we look up here, we would want to set it to this one right here. So this is going to be the current.next, because remember, current is set to the front right here. We're resetting it. So this is the next one. So end.next equal to current.next. And after we set equal to current.next, we're going to want to remove this. But first, let's update our end value. So the end previously was pointing at 7. We've added the 1 in. We just want to move it over to our current 1. So we're setting end equal to end.next, and that's going to be what updates it. Now to update the current, like I was talking about a second ago. So our current value is pointing to this front right here. We're gonna want to get rid of this odd. So in our total list, it's going to completely remove this, right? And then we're just adding this at the back of our list. So we can say current is equal to current, actually we should say current.next, because we want to update the next pointer, current.next.next. So this is current, this is the next value, and this is next. So we're essentially saying we want, instead of the next pointing to 1, we want the next pointing to the next value. So 0 is going to be pointing to 2. And then this will be our next value after that updates. We're going to want to move the pointer to the next value. So we'll say current is equal to current dot next. And that's pretty much it. We'll end our while loop, end this if statement, and end our public void shift. Let's run it and hope we don't get any errors. And I hope that made sense. If anything doesn't, you can, okay. Well, you can always leave a comment below, but let's try to sort this out. We have a cycle, meaning that this does not end. It's gonna keep going because we have a front stored in here, this dot front. Well, even though counter is minus through this entire thing, we are gonna continuously add in here because our current, again, stores front, and it's gonna keep going to next and next and next and next and next value. And that is an issue because it's gonna give us the cycle. So what we can do is, after this while loop ends, when our counter is at 0, we can set the next value, so it's going to be end.next. We can set it equal to null. And that's essentially going to cut off any cycling that's going to form after that. There'll be no more cycling because now we have a null ending value. We still haven't passed some tests. Let's see what we got here. Seems like these two are in the wrong positions, and I'm assuming that's going to be the same with this as well. So these two are issues. And that's because I said it earlier, but I didn't do it. That counter needs to be divided by 2. That's probably also why we were having that issue with cycling, because it was just going on. Counter needs to be divided by 2 because I did a whole little part on that about how there's only half as many odd numbers as there will probably be even numbers. So let's do that. Counter divided by equals 2. That should give us our answer. In fact, we might not even need this null. Maybe risky and test it afterwards because we're setting a specific point for this to stop at, and it still cycles. So we do need this. Lesson learned. And boom, so sorry about that. Again, that is going to be practice exercise 1620 shift. This is the code for it. If you have any questions, leave a comment below. And if you want more practice problems, it'll be in that playlist link below the like button. I hope you have a great day.